Welcome to episode 8 of the Mile 62 podcast. I'm your host, Richard Elkins, coming to you from Austin, Texas. We cover all things ultra running in the southern United States. And this episode, I'd like to talk about Javelina Jundred. It's that time of year, and the race is this coming weekend. I'm running the 100-mile race, and my brother's in the 100K. So we're pretty excited, been preparing all year for it, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the race, just kind of the mechanics of the race, what you should expect, and how to prepare once you arrive. This year they didn't put out a video, excuse me, but they did put out a PDF, and it's about 35 pages, but it has a lot of information that is not real important. It's got a lot of details, but I'll go over the key items so that you'll be prepared for the race. And if you're interested in running it next year, it's pretty much the same every year. The race is one of the biggest ultras in the United States, maybe even the world. In the United States, it's definitely one of the biggest. This year is a little bit bigger than last year. They have over 700 runners in the 100-mile race. Over 330 runners and the 100K, and then they've got a couple of night party races. So roughly there's about 1,200 runners out there. So it's a pretty busy loop. The loop is close to 20 miles. I think it's about 19.5. So the 100-mile runners are going to do 5 loops, and the 100K runners are going to do 3 loops. The race takes place in McDowell State Park, which is near Scottsdale, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix. I basically fly from Austin, Texas I change planes, and I fly to Phoenix, Sky Harbor Airport, and then I rent a car. One thing to note, when you arrive to Phoenix Airport, the rental car locations are off of the airport. So, you can prepare to have enough time to go and get your rental car because they're off-site. And then the packet pickup is at La Puesta del Sol. It's a hotel. It's near the park where the race is, but it took me about an hour to drive there from the airport last year. So I'm planning about the same. So just make sure you have enough time. Last year, I transferred in LA and got delayed a couple hours and didn't get out to packet pickup until 5 o'clock. And packet pickup closes at 6 o'clock. If you do miss packet pickup, you can pick up in the morning, but it's a real busy race in the morning, and you're having to get out there super early. So I definitely recommend try to do it the day before on Friday. Plus, they're selling a lot of merchandise, and they have some vendors out there. Like last year, they had Hoka and a few others, a couple beer vendors and equipment vendors. I think Kogala is going to be out there this year. So it's kind of a neat check-in atmosphere. There are a lot of hotels in the Scottsdale area. So my hotel was in Scottsdale. It took me about 15 to 20 minutes to drive to the race. And one thing I forgot to mention, during check-in, they're going to put a wristband on your arm, and you can't take that off till you finish the race. So that's pretty important. You don't want to leave the check-in without that. Basically, if you DNF in the race, they cut that off. It's very similar to like what's done at Western States. Now, getting back to the race, the race, the 100-mile race starts at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's 2 waves. One starts at 6, one starts at 6:10. I jump in the 6:10 wave because I like to take it easy in the beginning, and there's a lot of really fast runners in the first wave. They do add 10 minutes to the cutoff time, so you're not losing any time by doing that. So the 100K runners will start at 7 a.m. and the race for the 100-mile and the 100K finishes 12 o'clock the next day. However, the 100-mile runners need to be on their 5th lap by 6 in the morning, which is 24 hours. And the 100K runners need to be on their starting their 3rd lap by 6 in the morning. And they need to finish within 29 hours, whereas the 100-mile runners have 30 hours. A little bit about the course. Like I said, it's 5 laps for the 100-mile runners. There are 4 aid stations. The largest aid station is Javelina headquarters, which is really just a really neat setup. It's kind of got a U-shaped path through a bunch of tarp setups that people have set up to support their runners. There's also running groups. So you're coming into this area from the course, and you kind of loop around in a U, and then you run through the start-finish mat, and then you come back out through the same loop. Now, when you get to the point where you're going back on the course, there's signs to help you navigate which way you should go, because this course is a washing machine style setup, which means that you'll go out one direction, and then when you come back through the headquarters, you'll go back out the same direction. So, and that alternates every lap. Well, it may sound confusing, but actually it's not, because they've got people standing there near the headquarters when you go out, and then it says lap 1, lap 2 this way, lap 3 this way. So it's very user-friendly. I was a little bit nervous last year before I started, because if you do a lap the wrong direction, you will be disqualified. But I will say it would be really difficult to mess this up. It's neat because you're constantly being passed by other runners going the other direction, and you'll see the elite runners pass you several times. So it makes it a really exciting atmosphere. So not only you have people running in the same direction you are, but you have people coming at you from the other direction too, the whole race. So like I said, the biggest aid station is Javelina. They call it JED quarters. It's basically the headquarters camp. There's Coyote Camp, Jackass Junction, which is probably the most famous aid station. They've got a discotheque ball, and it's the biggest one. It's kind of right in the middle of the course. And last year they had a lot of elites out there. It was sponsored by Hoka and Rabbit. I'm sorry, it was sponsored by Rabbit, Eric Sensman. They had Jim Walmsley out there. And it's pretty exciting. They have hamburgers and basically everything you can imagine. And then at night, the people that are doing the party run, they basically drink liquor and dance there, and just the whole. What's interesting is you can hear the music miles away in the desert. So as you're running, as you're getting close to the Jackass Junction or even the headquarters, you hear the music from miles away. And at headquarters, they have a really big disc jockey setup, and playing great music all day long and in through the night. Then they have Rattlesnake Ranch, which is the last aid station. Last year that was sponsored by Hoka, and they had Tim Tollison and several Hoka athletes out there. It was pretty neat. So they do a real good job. There's 4 aid stations, and they basically have everything you need. However, the laps, we're talking almost a 20-mile lap. The first lap is a few miles longer, and you need to have a lot of water on you. And I suggest a hydration pack plus 1 bottle. That worked well for me last year. I carried all bottles last year, but it was equivalent in volume. This year I'm carrying a hydration pack plus 1 bottle. Typically on the 1 bottle I use for Gatorade or Hammer products or Perpetuum, some sort of mix I keep in my bottle, and then my hydration pack I keep it with water and ice to keep me cooled down. The course markings, the course is really well marked, the whole 20 miles. About every mile they have a marker, and they're numbered. And one thing they will tell you at registration, if you run into a problem, there's an emergency phone number on your bib, and you want to put that in your phone too. If you do have a problem on the course, you just basically remember the last number that you passed, and they can find you very quickly that way. The entire course has medics on bikes constantly being riding around, and at the headquarters they have a huge medic tent. Looks like something out of a MASH movie. Basically have everything they would need to take care of someone. It's really well organized. And then shortwave radio, they have a team out there with shortwave radios trying to communicate throughout the course. And on top of that, the cell signal, your mobile phone will work most of the course. I didn't look at my phone that much last year, but he told me that you had a signal most of the course. So it's well organized and very user-friendly. A little bit about my training this year. Last year I made it through 82 miles, and I attribute that to some salt intake issues, and also my core strength maybe wasn't up to par. During the last year I've worked on that, and I think I'm ready. I plan to use my Nathan hydration vest, and also arm sleeves to protect from the sun. I think that's real important out there. And you keep in mind that there's no shaded areas out there. There's no tree coverage the whole course. So during the day you're in the direct sunlight. And the toughest lap is probably lap 2. It's the hottest part of the day, and you need to be well protected. Sunscreen. Cover your arms if you have arm sleeves. I like the arm sleeves. I use those in all races, and I can use them for ice during the day, and at night it helps me keep warm if it's a little bit chilly. So that's kind of my strategy. I'm planning to wear exoskin shorts this year. That's something new for me. I've been trying them out, and I'm hoping that's going to help me prevent chafing on the 100-mile events, actually 100K and longer. I have challenges with chafing, and regardless of how much I lube up. So these shorts are 3/4 length, and I've heard a lot of good things about them. So I'm going to use those, and then I'm using Injinji socks, which I use in all my races. I plan to use the Ultra ones, which are the thickest ones. And I plan to run in Ultra Olympus shoes. I've been using those my last few Ultras, and also bring in my Ultra Temps in case I have some problems with those shoes, or I want something just a little bit lighter. But I plan to use Ultra for my brand of shoes this race. I'm not going to use any of my Hokas. And nutrition, I'm carrying some Hammer Perpetuum and some gels, but I plan to use goo gels, which they provide also, and try to eat as much real food as I can. The elevation gain on the course is around 7,000 feet of climbing, and about 7,000 feet of descent. It's somewhat rolling hills, but with a 50% DNF rate, it's a tough course, and a lot of people use it as they believe it's an easy course to get their Western States qualifier, but they find out it's not. A lot of people go out too fast, and the temperature swing really catches up with them. So I suggest going out very conservatively the first couple of laps, and then try to speed up at night. Another thing about Javelina Jundred is they do not allow trekking poles. It's one of the few events that I know of that doesn't allow trekking poles. I think the reason is because there's just too many people out there. They don't want someone to get hit or poked in the eye. But regardless, it's not allowed to use trekking poles. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is when you're coming into the McDowell Park, arriving to the headquarters, you need to plan to pay for parking. It's about $7. And last year you had to park, it's probably about a 15-minute walk to the main headquarters. So if you have a lot of gear, it's a little bit troublesome. So if you have the ability to bring something with wheels or a cart, it'll really help out a lot. and you'll see what I mean when you get there. The parking area, I got there very early. I just always do, and I had to walk about 15, 20 minutes, and I can imagine people that got there right before the race, they really had to walk a long ways. So if you have a lot of gear and you don't have a crew, try to prepare accordingly. The next thing I would like to do is talk about the elite field. This is a golden ticket race. It's one of the first in the golden ticket races going into next year's Western States 100. The favorite for this year in the men's is definitely going to be Patrick Reagan. He's won it several times, and I saw him last year. It was really pretty incredible seeing him several times. Excuse me. That's one of the advantages of the washing machine style course design. So the elites will pass you several times, the male and the female, and so it's kind of nice to see it. See them pass. Not many races you ever get to see the elite runners. They're always in front, and if it's a point-to-point race, you may never see them. But in this race, you're going to see them several times, so it's kind of neat. I always like cheering them on, and I remember Patrick Reagan last year said some nice things every time he passed me. I can't imagine him doing that every runner. You'd think it would get very tiring, but several elites did that. I remember Chris Mocco said some nice things to me as well when I passed him last year. But Patrick Reagan, in my book, is definitely the favorite. He's coming from Savannah, Georgia, and just had a great win in Western States. Not a win, but he was top 10. And Tyler Green I saw in Bandera 100, just an incredible runner. He's coming from Oregon, and I saw him in the Bandera 100 pass Chris Mocco right at the end of the race, and that was a hell of a race because there was Matt Daniels, Tyler Green, and several other, Chris Mocco and several other pros trying to get a golden ticket earlier this year. And Matt Daniels, of course, ran into a tree and was out of the race, but Tyler Green and Chris Mocco battled it out the whole race, and Tyler Green passed Chris Mocco right at the end of the race. So I expect some good things from Tyler Green. I don't think he's going to be able to beat Patrick Reagan, but if Patrick Reagan has a bad day, it's possible. So I have Tyler Green in second. Then Sion Lupowitz, I'm sorry, I'm butchering his name. He's actually from Tucson, and he's a really great runner. He runs for Arevapa, and he's from the Arizona area, so he knows the course very well. Last year he did very well. So I think he will be up there in the mix for the top 5. One thing to keep in mind, because Patrick Reagan had a top 10 finish, he doesn't need a golden ticket. So if Patrick Reagan gets in first place, finishes in first, the second and third places will get the golden ticket. So I think we'll see a lot of action. Some other names that I saw, like Riccardo Tortini from Vancouver. He's also a very good runner. There's also some other good runners coming from California and Florida, but I really don't think they're at the same level with Patrick Reagan and Tyler Green and Sion Lupowitz. So I think that's what we're probably gonna see on the men's field. In the women's field this year, we have it's very deep. I think it's a lot more competitive than the men's field. We have Casey Lichtide coming in from Nebraska. She runs for Hoka. Strong finishes at Bandera, Western States, and just in really good shape. And I think it's definitely going to be in that lead pack. Elisa McDonald coming in from Canada. Hasn't raced very much lately. She raced in UTMB and was very strong last year, has a lot of grit. I think she's going to definitely be a contender. Camilla Mayfield coming in from Bend, Oregon. Always a strong competitor. Was in Western States, and I think she will be very strong. One of my favorites, Sally McRae, coming in from California. Strong finish in UTMB, and really good shape right now. So So we have a pretty deep field. Those Megan Law's also coming in from California, always having good races. So what a pack, and all of them need a golden ticket. None of them did well enough in Western States none of them placed in the top 10 to return next year. So I think we're going to have a really good battle. My prediction is that we're going to see Casey Lichtide in first place, and Sally McRae in second place. They'll get the golden tickets, and I think it'll be very close. I think if there were more climbing, I think Sally would have the upper hand on this one. But Casey Lichtide is a really fast runner. This course probably lends itself to her toolbox a little bit better. I think she's a little bit faster runner than Sally. I may be wrong, but I think it'll be a very close race if Casey hesitates and doesn't have a good first couple laps. I think it's Sally's race. So it's going to be a very close one. And Camilla and Elisa will be right there in the mix too. Megan Law's, you can't count them out. All of them could win the race. So it's going to be exciting. I think the women's field is much deeper. There are also some other great runners coming in from Arizona and California. So it's going to be very deep. It's going to be a good fight. But I think what we'll see is Casey winning the race, and then Sally coming in second place. Casey's now with Hoka, and Sally's with Nike. So it's going to be a good race. I'm excited to see how it turns out, and it'll be exciting to see them on the course because they're going to pass me from behind and from the other direction several times. That's a nice thing about this washing style course. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to follow me on social media, I can be found on Instagram, RunnerRWE. On Twitter, it's @RunnerRWE. On Strava, I'm Richard, host of the Mile 62 podcast. You can also find me in a Mile 62 Strava group. We have a running group. Welcome to join. And feedback and questions are always welcome, especially if you want me to cover something in a future podcast episode, or if you disagree with me on something, please send me an email. I'd happy to discuss it, reply to you, and also discuss it in the future podcast. My email address is runnerrwe@gmail.com. If you have time, please give me a review on iTunes, whether or not it'd be good or bad. I need reviews, and subscribe if you would. That would be great. I'm a new podcast, and I'm trying to get more traction and get more listeners. So I appreciate your support. I do this for fun. It's not a source of income for me, and it never will be. I just want to spread my story. It's kind of my audio blog, and appreciate you listening. Stay tuned for future episodes, and have a great week of running. Take care. Bye-bye.